I, 29 male, am an architect living in Chicago, and if you had asked me 3 months ago, I would have told you I had my life completely mapped out. I had the career, the apartment downtown with the view, and the girlfriend, Sarah, 27 female, who I thought was the one. We had been together for 2 years. I paid the bulk of the rent, funded the vacations, and basically financed the lifestyle she felt she was entitled to. I didn't mind because I loved her and thought we were building a future. I didn't realize I was just a placeholder until she decided to rewrite the script without telling me. It started on a Tuesday. I came home from a site visit, absolutely drained, covered in drywall dust, just wanting a shower and a meal. Instead, I found Sarah sitting at the kitchen island with a glass of wine, and that look, the one that says, "I have practiced this speech in the mirror for 3 hours." She told me she felt stifled. She said she loved me but wasn't in love with me anymore. She gave me the whole spiel about how she missed out on her chaotic 20s because we got serious too fast and she needed to find herself. I knew what she wanted.
She wanted me to cry.
She wanted me to beg, to promise her the moon, to offer an open relationship, or a break where I paid her bills while she figured things out. But honestly, I was tired. I had felt the distance for months. So I just looked at her and said, "Okay." She blinked, totally thrown off. She asked if that was it, if I was just going to give up that easily. I told her that if she wasn't happy, I wasn't going to force her to stay. I respected her decision. The look on her face wasn't relief, it was insult. She was offended that I wasn't fighting for the privilege of being treated like an option. The logistics were simple on paper, but messy in reality. The lease was in my name. I gave her 30 days to find a place, but she insisted she needed space immediately to heal. She packed 3 suitcases of clothes and left to stay with a friend, leaving behind furniture, kitchen stuff, and boxes of junk. She told me she'd come get the rest when she was settled and explicitly said, "Don't touch my stuff." I didn't touch it. I hired professionals. 3 days after she left, movers packed everything she owned into a climate-controlled storage unit. I prepaid for 2 months, mailed her the key and the access code, and texted her the address. I wasn't going to live in a shrine to our failed relationship. She blew up my phone, calling me heartless for moving her things, but I just blocked her on all social media. I kept her number unblocked solely for emergencies. Then came the silence. It was peaceful. I focused on work, got back into the gym, and actually started sleeping better. About 5 weeks post-breakup, a coworker dragged me to a gallery opening where I met Maya. Maya was a breath of fresh air, grounded, smart, direct. We grabbed drinks, and it was just easy. No games, no performance. We went on a few dates. I didn't post anything online, but about 2 weeks into seeing Maya, she tagged me in a group photo from a dinner party on Instagram. That tag was apparently the signal for World War III. I was at my desk reviewing blueprints when my phone lit up.
Sarah.
I let it go to voicemail. It rang again, and again. I finally picked up, thinking maybe the storage unit had flooded or something serious had happened. As soon as I said hello, she was screaming. Not talking, screaming. She was sobbing so hard, she was hyperventilating. She asked how I could do this to her. She asked who she was. She screamed that it had only been 6 weeks. I stayed calm and reminded her that she broke up with me. She was the one who needed to find herself. Then she dropped the mask. She screamed, "I didn't mean go out and replace me instantly. I thought you'd wait. I just needed a break to see what was out there. I didn't think you'd actually move on." There it was. It wasn't about finding herself. It was a soft breakup. She wanted to put me on the shelf, test the dating market, and pick me back up when she realized it was rough out there. I told her I wasn't a backup plan and that she made her choice. She demanded I dump Maya, saying that if I ever loved her, I would fix this. She said she was coming over. I told her I changed the locks, which I did, the day after the movers left. She lost it. She started shrieking about her rights, saying she lived there for 2 years, and it was her home too. I reminded her she left voluntarily and wasn't on the lease. I hung up. I knew Sarah. I knew this wasn't over. She was the kind of person who had never heard the word no without viewing it as a negotiation. Her parents had bailed her out of every bad decision she ever made, and she expected the universe to do the same. The next morning, I went to the garage to head to work. My car, which I parked in my assigned spot, was destroyed. A deep, jagged key scratch ran from the headlight to the taillight on the passenger side. And on the hood, written in bright red lipstick, was the word cheater. I didn't react emotionally. I took photos. I called the police non-emergency line and filed a report for vandalism. I got the security footage from the building manager. It clearly showed Sarah in a hoodie doing the deed. I got to work, thinking I could handle the car situation later, only to find an email from our HR director, Joyce. Subject: urgent meeting regarding conduct. My stomach dropped. I walked into the glass-walled office, and Joyce slid a printed email across the desk. It was from a burner account, but the tone was undeniable. It accused me of using company funds for personal vacations, being mentally unstable, and, the big one, stealing proprietary client data to sell to competitors. I felt the blood drain from my face. This was my career. I explained to Joyce that this was retaliation from an ex-girlfriend who I had just filed a police report against for vandalism that same morning. I showed her the police report number. Joyce was sympathetic but firm. The accusation of data theft was too serious to ignore. IT had to audit my logs. Until then, I was on paid administrative leave. I had to hand over my badge and laptop and be escorted out of the building. I walked out with a box of my stuff, humiliated and furious. She had crossed the line from crazy ex to actively trying to ruin my life. I drove straight to the office of a family friend, Marcus, who is a litigator specializing in high-conflict civil cases. I laid it all out: the breakup, the storage unit, the phone call, the car, the HR email. Marcus listened, his face getting harder by the minute. He told me that the email was defamation per se because it accused me of a crime in a professional setting, which meant we didn't even have to prove monetary damages to sue, though I definitely had them. While we were sitting there, my phone buzzed. A Venmo request from Sarah for $5,000. The note read, asterisk for the emotional distress and the furniture you stole. Pay it or I go to the cops about the abuse. Asterisk. Marcus looked at the phone and asked if I had ever abused her. I told him never. I never even raised my voice at her. He said, this is extortion. And she's arrogant enough to put it in writing. The next few days were a nightmare of escalation. She started messaging Maya on Instagram with fake screenshots of texts where I supposedly confessed to having all sorts of nasty medical issues and a gambling addiction. Maya was smart enough to call me, but she was also smart enough to realize this was too much drama. She ended things with me. I didn't blame her, but it stung. Sarah had successfully isolated me. Then came the knock on my hotel door. I was staying at a hotel because I didn't feel safe at home. It was a process server. Sarah had filed for a temporary restraining order, TRO. In the affidavit, she claimed I had physically threatened her, that I was stalking her, and that I had illegally evicted her. Because these hearings are ex parte, meaning I wasn't there to defend myself, the judge granted it temporarily. Here is where she got truly evil. The order forced me to stay 500 feet away from her and her residence. She listed my apartment address as her residence. I got a call from my building concierge saying Sarah was there with police and a court order, demanding access. I tried to explain to the officer over the phone that she hadn't lived there in 2 months, that I had the lease and moving receipts. The cop didn't care. He said, "Sir, the court order lists this as her residence. It's a civil matter. You need to vacate or allow her entry until the full hearing." She had weaponized the legal system to kick me out of my own home and move herself back in. I called Marcus, shaking with rage. I wanted to go down there and drag her out. Marcus told me to freeze. He said, "Let her get comfortable. She just committed perjury on a massive scale. She lied on a sworn affidavit. We have the text messages proving she left, the receipts proving I moved her out, and the security footage proving she hasn't been in the building for 60 days. We are going to nail her." We needed to know why she was escalating this so hard. I reached out to a mutual friend, Ben, who had stayed neutral. We met for coffee 2 towns over. Ben looked nervous. He told me Sarah was telling everyone I hit her. I asked him if he believed it, and he said no, which is why he agreed to meet. Then he dropped the bomb. "You need to know about Brad," Ben said. "Who is Brad?" "Brad is the guy she left you for. He's a VP at her agency. She thought he was going to leave his wife for her. The day you guys broke up, she went straight to his place. 2 weeks later, Brad reconciled with his wife and blocked Sarah. She has nowhere to go. She's broke because she spent all her savings on an Airbnb trying to live that high life to impress him. She wants your apartment and your money because she has literally nothing else." It all clicked. She wasn't just a heartbroken girl. She was a failed homewrecker looking for a golden parachute. Ben also mentioned she was selling my stuff. She had posted my custom gaming PC and my watch collection on Facebook Marketplace. That was the final straw. The hearing for the permanent restraining order was set for Tuesday. Marcus and I prepared a dossier that was thicker than a dictionary. We had the breakup texts, the moving receipts, the storage unit contract, the security footage, the Venmo extortion attempt, and screenshots of her selling my property while squatting in my apartment. Marcus decided we weren't just going to get the order dismissed. We filed a cross-complaint for abusive process, malicious prosecution, defamation, and conversion theft. We were also asking for immediate eviction. On Monday, the day before court, she called me from a spoofed number. I answered and immediately hit record on my other phone. Illinois is a 2-party consent state, but there is an exception if you suspect a crime is being committed against you, and extortion is definitely a crime. She sounded drunk. She said, "If you give me $10,000 and sign the lease over to me, I'll drop the restraining order. I know you have money. Brad screwed me over. I deserve this. I put up with your boring life for 2 years." I told her she filed a false police report. She laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Nobody cares. I'm a crying woman.
You're a cold corporate guy.
Who are they going to believe? Just pay me." I told her I'd see her in court. Tuesday morning, the courtroom was sterile and cold. Sarah sat there with a public defender, looking frail and dressed in modest clothes I had never seen her own. She was playing the victim role to perfection. When the judge asked her to speak, she wept. She told a sob story about how controlling I was, how I threw her out on the street, how she was terrified for her life. Then it was Marcus's turn. Marcus stood up and said, "Your Honor, the plaintiff has presented a compelling work of fiction, but we deal in facts." He handed the binder to the bailiff to give to the judge. Marcus walked him through it. Exhibit A, her initiating the breakup. Exhibit B, the moving receipts paid by me. Exhibit C, geotagged social media posts from Sarah vacationing in Cabo with a Mr. Bradley Miller during the time she claimed to be homeless and terrified of me. The judge flipped through the binder, his expression shifting from neutral to annoyed. He stopped at the Venmo screenshot. He looked over his glasses at Sarah and asked, "Ma'am, did you send this demand for $5,000? She stammered, He owed me that." "For emotional distress?" the judge asked. He turned the page. "And Exhibit F, is this you selling the defendant's Rolex on Facebook Marketplace yesterday, while residing in his apartment under my protective order?" Sarah went pale. "I needed money for food. He cut me off." "He is not your husband," the judge snapped. "He is not your father. You are legal strangers." Marcus then delivered the final blow. "Your Honor, we also have a sworn affidavit from the HR director of my client's company confirming that the plaintiff sent false allegations of embezzlement, resulting in my client's suspension. We are requesting the TRO be dismissed with prejudice, an immediate order for the plaintiff to vacate the residence under police escort, and we are filing a separate civil suit for damages today." The judge looked at Sarah. The sympathy was completely gone. He said, "The TRO is dismissed. It was clearly obtained through perjury. Ma'am, you have 2 hours to vacate that apartment. If you take so much as a spoon that doesn't belong to you, I will hold you in contempt of court. Officer, please accompany the defendant to ensure the property is secured." Sarah stood up, her face bright red, and shouted, "This isn't fair. He ruined my life." The judge replied dryly, "It seems, ma'am, that you did a fine job of that yourself." We went straight from the courthouse to the apartment with the police. Sarah was frantically throwing clothes into trash bags. The apartment was a disaster. There were wine stains on the rug, the place smelled like stale smoke, and my gaming PC was gone. She had already sold
it.
She looked at me as the officer told her to hand over her keys. She hissed, "You're going to regret this. You'll never find anyone like me." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "That's the plan." But I wasn't done. The civil suit was already filed. Because Sarah had no assets, most people would have said suing her was a waste of money. Marcus advised me to go through with it to get a judgment on record. We sued for the value of the stolen items, the damage to the car, the cost of the hotel, and legal fees. But the biggest blow came from the abusive process claim. During the discovery phase of the lawsuit, we subpoenaed her texts. We found messages to her friends planning the whole thing. Messages like, "I'll just tell the cops he hit me. They always believe the girl, lol." And asterisk, "I'm going to make him pay for Brad dumping me." Asterisk. We sent those transcripts to the district attorney. Usually, they don't prosecute false reports because they don't want to discourage real victims from coming forward. But the brazen nature of her texts, combined with the judge's anger from the TRO hearing, pushed them to act. She was charged with filing a false police report and perjury. She ended up pleading down to a misdemeanor with probation and 200 hours of community service, but she now has a criminal record. The consequences for her entitlement were absolute. First, her career is dead. My company cleared me completely after the IT audit and sent a cease and desist to Sarah. When the news of her perjury and criminal charge hit the public record, her employer fired her immediately. In her industry, reputation is everything, and nobody hires a marketing manager known for lying and extortion. Second, she is financially ruined. I won a judgment of $34,000 against her. She had to declare bankruptcy. However, judgments for intentional torts, like malicious prosecution, generally aren't dischargeable in bankruptcy. That debt will follow her until she pays it, garnishing whatever wages she manages to get in the future. Third, she is a social pariah. The text messages came out in the court filings. Her friends, the ones she lied to about me hitting her, dropped her. Brad, obviously, wants nothing to do with her. She tried to reach out one last time about 3 months ago. I got an email from a new address. It said, asterisk, "I'm sorry. I was just hurting. Can we just talk? I'm in a really bad place, and I don't have anyone." Asterisk. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to her probation officer as a violation of the no-contact order that was part of her sentencing. I'm back in my apartment now. I replaced the rug. I built a better PC. I'm still single, taking my time. Maya and I didn't get back together, which is fair. Too much baggage right out of the gate. But we grabbed coffee recently, and she's glad I'm safe. I learned a hard lesson. Some people view relationships not as partnerships, but as leverage. Sarah thought she was the main character, and that the world would bend to her tears. She found out that the real world has sharp edges. She wanted me to wait for her? In a way, I did. I waited right there at the finish line to make sure she faced every single consequence of her actions. If you enjoy stories about entitled people getting served a piping hot plate of justice, hit that subscribe button. It costs less than a false restraining order and feels a whole lot better.